Good morning, my friends. This is Paul. This may be a little late by some YouTuber standards, but I wanted to talk about the entirety of Fighters Pass 1 in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and talk about if it's worth purchasing the entire thing without purchasing individual DLC packs or ignoring which ones you don't like. So this is going to be focused strictly on the Fighters Pass itself. So stuff like Mii Fighter costumes and Piranha Plant will not be included because those you have to buy separately anyway, and you won't get it with the Fighters Pass to begin with. I know a lot of YouTubers like to cover Piranha Plant, but I'm specifically more focused here on the pricing than on the technicalities of the characters. Why am I showing Sans then? I needed something interesting for this intro and I didn't feel like pulling out my webcam, so I hope you like my interpretation of what I think the Megalovania boss battle would be in Smash Brothers, and if you don't, then let's stop yapping and get right into talking about the Fighters Pass. Starting off Fighters Pass Volume 1, we had Joker from Persona 5, along with Persona content coming along. Joker's a really stylish character who has very short range, but he makes up for it by having good mobility and a nice light framework. Now, I am not a competitive smasher, so I'm not going to go into stuff like frame data and kill rates and all that. For me, I just like to look at, is the character fun? Does he make sense to control? Does he have flashy moves? And do I overall like the series he's from? Now, I have played Persona 5 Strikers, but I haven't played Persona 5 yet because it's still not on a Nintendo system. But even without it, I still really like how the unique quirkiness of Persona 5 translates really well to Smash Brothers, as Joker just seems like that guy that just oozes like, dude, I am like this really cool guy and I'm going to beat my enemies with style. You get Mementos as a stage, which actually changes color based on the music, but it's a nice, simple design that I think could be very competitive friendly. And with hazards off, really the only thing you're missing is you don't have the ceilings and the walls converging on you, and you don't have to worry about the bus at the bottom of the screen. You also get cameos from the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, which is nice, and they even got all of the original cast of Persona 5 to reprise their roles during Joker's victory screens and during his final smash. And you can listen to all of it in the sound test if you can't figure out when they talk. So that's really cool. As far as music, there's actually 3 new remakes, and there's songs from a whole bunch of Persona games instead of Persona 5. One of my favorites is Last Surprise, which is the main battle theme for Persona 5. They also have a remix of Beneath the Mask and Aria of the Soul and I'll Face Myself. Overall, I felt like the quality diminished as it went along, but it was still really nice. And it didn't really feel too video gamey, more of like kind of pop type music, but that's not bad at all. The spirits are only from Persona 5, so fans of the other games might be a little bit disappointed by that, but Joker's Classic Mode route does a good job of mimicking the concept of fighting shadows and then befriending them as personas as you fight against dark enemies, and then one of them will become your party member in the next fight, simulating that you're going to that you're making them your persona. And then the final boss is against Master Hand and Crazy Hand, but on Mementos instead of Final Destination. So that's a nice change of pace. So Joker for $5 when the game he's from isn't even on the Switch yet? So far so good. Let's see what happens next. Are you kidding me, Square? What kind of awful MIDI nonsense is this? Especially when you advertised that this music was going to be from the definitive edition of Dragon Quest XI. Well, I know this is a Smash Brothers video, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to switch gears for this footage, because I don't want to subject yourself to this kazoo playing for too long. Much better. Now before you think I'm cheating by just playing a random song from Dragon Quest XI, This song actually is in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but it's in its MIDI form. This is in its full orchestral glory, and I'm sorry guys, I can't do it. I'm not a MIDI fan to begin with, but Dragon Quest XI is particularly awful at it, and I feel like it's mainly because the composer is really stubborn and wants to make money from his concerts, and I just think for all the hype that Hero got in Japan and how they were losing their minds as much as we Americans did when Banjo was revealed, they got really the short end of the stick when it came to music. There's only 8 music tracks, and from what I've heard, Dragon Quest has some legendary tunes. None of them are orchestral, none of them are remixes, and they're only field and battle tunes, so no event tunes. And I don't know, I just feel like for one of the most iconic JRPG franchises out there, Hero deserved a lot better. But as a character, Hero still deserved a lot better. His moveset by itself is basic enough where I think anyone can grasp it, but where it kind of falls flat is in the magic system. Your magical attacks and special moves drain your MP, which no other character has an MP gauge. And in his down special in particular, he has 32 different special moves that randomize into 4 at a time, which is fine by itself. It's not particularly intuitive. I don't particularly like using it when I play as Hero. But I've heard that players, both casual and competitive, get really annoyed when they're facing Hero if they're fighting with someone who plays in a different language because you can't read their commands, which makes him a rather unique barrier. His stage, Yggdrasil's Altar, is beautiful and does a great job of conveying the vastness of the content of Erdrea, but you have to be subjected to the terrible music while doing it, so it almost feels like, as glorious as the stage is, I don't want to play it because the music is so bad. Hero's spirits are okay. Most of them draw from Dragon Quest XI, which is totally fine. They're trying to milk it all out. But there's also not that many of them. And his classic mode route is an homage to classic Dragon Quest with the awful music. I think you get what I'm getting at here. The music kind of just ruins everything, and instead of feeling like a celebration, it feels more like an insult. So I think Hero is definitely the weakest part of the pack by far. Now this is what we're talking about. For $6, you get Banjo and Kazooie returning to a Nintendo system for the first time since 2005's Banjo Pilot, and really the first truly good Banjo game since Banjo-Tooie in 2000. The bear and bird have such an amazing design that freely captures the whimsical nature of the N64 originals while still feeling like it's a next evolutionary step in HD without feeling like a total redesign like in Nuts and Bolts. The stage, Spiral Mountain, is gorgeous, and I think one thing that us Banjo fans are really happy about is that nearly every move that Banjo and Kazooie have is either straight from their original games or is an adaptation. Like, for example, their up smash, the Bill Drill, you actually did that into the ground in the original game, and doing it up is like, okay, that makes sense for the context of Smash. You've also got cameos from several iconic Banjo characters in the background, and Banjo and Kazooie use their original voice clips, so if you really love the duh and Bahee, then you still get all of that. The music is also spectacular. You've got 10 music tracks, 7 of which are remixes, and the Spiral Mountain theme was done by the game's original composer, Grant Kirkhope, making him the first non-Japanese composer to work on a Smash Bros. Remix. Banjo and Kazooie have the least spirits of anyone in the Fighter's Pass, but the spirits are really high quality and do a good job of capturing the essences of the game and providing a nice outside-the-box way of looking at things. Although I still kinda wish that they had made King K. Rool represent Gruntilda instead of King Dedede. Even the final smash makes sense, because in Banjo-Tooie, Gruntilda had the Big O Blaster that she was going to use to, well, she actually killed 2 of the characters in the game, and she tried to destroy the entire island that Banjo and Kazooie lived on, so King Dedede having a hammer in a boxing ring, I feel like that's more of like what Donkey Kong 64 would have if they wanted K. Rool represented if he wasn't already a character. Despite all of that, Banjo-Kazooie were handled just about perfectly. If I had any complaints about them, it would probably be nitpicks, but I've gotten so decent at playing at them that I feel like those complaints are pretty much null and void, and I just have to get better at Smash if I'm gonna overcome them. So I think Banjo and Kazooie are an absolute win, and I really wish Hero would have gotten the same treatment, because from what I've heard, we Westerners see Banjo with the same reverence as the Japanese people do Dragon Quest, and wouldn't it have been nice if they had gotten the amazing remix treatment and the glorious visuals and the epic comeback? And it's Banjo. They did such an amazing job, and as someone who voted for them in the Smash ballot, I couldn't be happier that I actually influenced game design. When Terry was first announced for Smash Bros., I said, "Who?" Now, I had heard of Fatal Fury and King of Fighters, but I didn't know the name Terry Bogard very readily because I, for one, had never played either of the games, and two, characters in games like Street Fighter, they kind of blend together after a while. It's just like, okay, it's another Street Fighter game, as opposed to like Mario games having Mario, Zelda having Link. Terry didn't feel like the face of Fatal Fury to me. That being said, I think that he probably has objectively the most bang for your buck. While he may not have as consistently good quality as Banjo and Kazooie did for their Challenger Pack, I still think you get an insane amount of content for $6. So Terry himself is a lot of fun to play as. He feels both similar and different enough from Ryu and Ken to warrant that third spot on the list. He also has a lot of technical complications that make it so that if you're a skilled player, you can pull off all sorts of advanced techniques, but if you're a casual player like me who can't do all those crazy inputs from the Street Fighter era to save my life, you can still have a blast, as Terry's moveset is a lot of fun. He feels like the perfect evolution from Ryu and Ken. And not only that, but he just looks really cool. The long hair and the red cap make him look like what Mario would look like if he was clean-shaven and a hippie. Now, one thing I don't really like about Terry is the fact that he's supposed to be an American, but he's voiced by a Japanese guy. And not that I'm prejudiced or anything, but at least try to pronounce things in an American way if you're going to be an American guy who speaks English. Like, I know that there's, American people that dub over a Japanese person, but it's also implied that they are speaking English, whereas this, Terry is speaking English, but the American people butchered how we would say things. So, I don't know, would it really have killed them to get an American actor to play him? His stage is also really cool, too. It's called King of Fighters Stadium, and because Street Fighter is more of a stamina-based fighter rather than a launch players off the side of the screen, you have to shatter the sides of the screen to get your opponent through them. This might be the coolest stage gimmick I've ever played, and again, it feels like the kind of stage where I think the competitive players probably wouldn't have too many problems with it. Also, depending on the music that you choose, you have different cameos from various characters. Now, the music is really where it's at. You've got 50 songs, and not just from Fatal Fury. You've got songs from all throughout SNK's library with, I believe, approximately between 11 to 17 remixes. That's a lot of songs. Can you blame me for not getting my facts 100% correct? And while I don't personally like a lot of the songs, it's mainly just because I'm not a fan of either the games nor the genre of music. But I still think that's insane. If you were an SNK fan or a fan of just rockish Metallica type music in general, how do you get all that for $6? And apparently Sakurai wasn't turned down a single request when he went to SNK to ask what he could allow to be represented musically. So, Square, what is your problem with Dragon Quest? That would have been nice if we could have gotten 50 songs from that game. His classic mode route is more or less a bunch of stamina battles with one person versus 3 of similar characters. which it's alright, not as creative as Joker's, but it gets the job done. So overall, I think Terry probably has the best value. Again, it may not be as consistent as what Banjo and Kazooie have, where like literally everything is perfect, but hey, SNK fans are in for a real treat if they pick this up. Alrighty, time for the characters that everyone but me loves to hate. Seriously, I do not get why people hated Byleth as much as they did. I can get being disappointed by another Fire Emblem rep, especially with this being the last character of the Fighter's Pass, but a lot of people have made this point several times, but it still hasn't seemed to sink in. A lot of people judge a character only by the character and not by everything else that comes with it. So if you take it as Byleth alone, it's like, okay, yeah, that could be potentially underwhelming if it was just Byleth. But because this is a Fighter's Pass, that means that it also comes with a new stage, new music, new spirits. How come people do not mention this stuff? So, for starters, Byleth's moveset I've heard is very comparable to the moveset of those used in Monster Hunter. However, where I think Byleth stands apart is the fact that I like playing as this Edelgard skin, so I'm going to use female pronouns, even though the default skin is male. She uses the Sword of the Creator, which is like her major hero's relic in the game. Not only is this an iconic part of Byleth's moveset from very early in the game, but the Sword of the Creator also has a really unique design where it's like both a sword and kind of also a whip at the same time. So it allows for further reach, a nice recovery move, and I feel like it really sets Byleth apart from all the other sword wielders because it feels like she's both a sword and a whip wielder. Also, not to mention that she's the only Fire Emblem rep that uses other physical weapons besides a sword. And honestly, I would say that the sword is probably the move that I use the least out of all of Byleth's moves. I vastly prefer using her bow and her lance. So for those saying not another sword wielder, I think what you should be saying is finally a lance wielder. Now as far as the other content that comes with Byleth, you also get Garrigmach Monastery as a stage. It doesn't do anything crazy, but arguably it's the most iconic landmark in Three Houses, and it also works as a really good hub world in general. I feel like people who like open world type games would really love exploring Garrigmach, and it looks significantly prettier in this game than it does in the original game, because Three Houses was a very great game, but it wasn't much of a looker at the same time. The spirit battles were really fun too, emulating the best characters from the games, and it didn't feel like the amount was too little or too much. It felt like it was just right. The big problem I have with the spirits is that they spoil major parts of the game, and one of the biggest twists in the narrative. So if you haven't played Three Houses and you plan on it, you'll want to stay away from the spirits. And you'll especially not want to upgrade the 3 house leader spirits. Trust me, it's better to go in completely blind. Now, as far as Byleth's classic mode route, it's basically a love letter to Fire Emblem. So I can see fans not liking that as much if they're not Fire Emblem fans, but if you are, like me, then you couldn't have asked for anything better. Besides the fact that I wish that you would have fought against a dragon instead of just the Master Hand again, but at least they subverted that expectation good enough by making it so that you face Master Hand with all of the other non-Echo Fire Emblem characters, so it's a celebration of the franchise, and for those of us that love the series, can't really go wrong. There's also several music tracks. I think there's 19 overall, 2 of which are remixes, although really it should be just one remix, because one is the English version and one is the Japanese version of Edge of Warfare. Pretty much every song that I had hoped from Three Houses to get in did get in, and this one song playing was one of 2 that I requested. Roar of Dominion didn't get in. Golden Deer fans will probably be furious that God-Shattering Star didn't get in either, but overall the music selection is really solid. And if you can't agree that Byleth was a good addition for any other reason, at least listen to the music. Then if you want to hate Byleth, then you can go ahead, because you could say, okay, the stage doesn't have anything crazy going for it. Classic mode is basically just Fire Emblem fanboyism. But the music honestly sounds like something out of a Hans Zimmer movie, and as an orchestra lover, I can't think of too much better than that. For people that don't like video game music, that'll definitely be right up their alley. So give Byleth's music a try. Maybe you'll find that you judged her a bit too harshly. So in conclusion, I like 4 of the 5 fighters in the Fighters Pass. I think Hero is by far the weakest addition in terms of what you're getting in the Challenger Pack, especially contrasting to the rest of the legendary representation here. Not everything is perfect in the Fighters Pass, but I would say that overall, the quality around the board is fairly consistent, except for Hero, with Hero now being the only franchise in Smash Bros. That has no remixes. Now, thanks to Sephiroth joining, even Final Fantasy has remixes, so I don't know, maybe Square learned their lesson. So, I think, unless you really can put up with the MIDI of Dragon Quest and really want the spirits, you're probably better off if you get every character except Hero, unless you're a die-hard Hero fan and you just have to have Erdrick as an alternate skin, but he's also so standard. Like, he doesn't really have anything that Robin and Ike haven't done before besides the command prompt, and that's just really annoying. Banjo in particular, I would say, is worth the Fighters Pass alone, if they were only going to put them in and just put all of their effort into making even more music. But I think Terry has a lot of songs, Joker has a lot of style, Banjo's Banjo. Byleth has amazing music, and Fire Emblem fans are going to be happy. Hero has terrible music, not that many spirits, and not a good moveset, but overall, well, I guess it could be worse. At least Dragon Quest got some music. So, bye everyone except Hero is my personal opinion. Yours may differ, but I'd like to think that even people who don't really care about MIDI would have at least preferred a remix if you couldn't get a symphonic score, and if Square couldn't even give that, well, they're just really behind the pack in terms of third parties. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or critiques, please let me know in the comment section. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and let me know if there's any other Byleth lovers besides me. Bye!